All right, I've made the executive decision. We're going to be changing your role.
What? I was just finishing shaving for complete forward. What do I have to do now, man? Come on.
Well, I need you to put the beard back on. We're retraining you back to target man. Don't give me that look. All we need's a few months of you training target man, and all of a sudden you'll have a full green circle on it.
That actually doesn't sound right. Because the last time we did this, I didn't feel any different. Okay. Oh, man. We're cool. We're just friends. I have great man management, and you respect that. Okay, fine. I'm just telling you, after all that training, I didn't feel any different. I didn't get any stronger. I didn't get any taller. I didn't get any faster. And did you notice? The circle didn't change? Oh no.
There is a horrific realization that you come to after a certain amount of digging in to individual player training. What drives me crazy about it is that you have to dig a long way. I'm talking into the forums a long way, or you have to accidentally ask the right person the right question. When you read the right Football Manager literature, or you watch the right Football Manager videos, then it becomes apparent that positions and roles are actually not the same thing at all. Like they don't even work in the same universe of how you're supposed to understand how they work. Speaking of universes, though, I've kind of created my own on Twitch where I just ramble about things like this and why it makes absolutely no sense. Feel free to click the link down below, follow, and I stream 4 days a week because I now am on a streak of saying that every video. There's also a Twitter and Instagram down there, and if you're like, man, I just really want some more madman ramblings, that's the place to go. If this is your first video, you can also see what the beard actually looked like there. So, my fabulous target man beard, which cannot be taught. That kind of beard's just natural. Which is kind of the point of the video. Roles can't be taught. I'm just going to give you a second to process the fact that role familiarity does not exist. Have you processed? These little circles over here, they are staff recommendations for what role that person is best at in a position. Why? Don't ask me. I know your mind's going all over and you're reevaluating everything that you thought you knew about training and positions and attributes and how those all work together. I'm gonna need you to bring yourself, collect yourself. We only got like 15 minutes in this video, I think. I'm guessing. I know it sounds crazy, and I played the game for years assuming that roles worked exactly like positions and versatility played a factor and you could get better at them separate from coach recommendations, but I sourced the SI forums on multiple occasions discussing the fact that roles work right from the top. No, they don't work, but they're a representation of attributes. There's no versatility playing a factor in them at all. And our guinea pig for this to help you understand what I'm talking about is Yohar Mejia, who is the star striker on my save with Llaneros in Colombia. He is recommended as a target man because his attributes are best arrayed for him to play target man. If you don't know about the attribute layout, if you're looking at green, green is the key attributes, and then the supporting attributes for that particular role are in blue. So what I'm saying essentially is that Yohar Mejia, his attributes are best arrayed to fit in that green, then blue for target man. Once this is explained to you, it becomes abundantly clear. You go to advance forward and you go, yeah, you're right, they're kind of prioritizing this other stuff like agility and pace and work rate that he's just not quite as good at. And past how complicated this might feel initially that roles are completely decided by the attributes and opinions, there are certain roles that if your current ability is below a threshold, no matter how well your attributes are laid out, like his attributes are laid out pretty well for complete forward. You would think it wouldn't be all the way down, but you have to be over a certain amount of current ability to be recommended as a complete forward. You can still play it, and it will have literally no effect on how well the person plays in that role. They're just saying that he's probably not good enough to be used effectively as a complete forward. He can totally still play it. Let's step back and take a breath. This is a lot to grasp. You probably already noticed that certain roles, if you're on worse teams, people just aren't going to be able to play them. They're just not recommended for it. Well, we'll take a breath and talk about what all of this means. And this is why the understanding that there is no role familiarity is accompanied by this freeing realization that no matter what color that circle is, your player is going to be performing exactly the same as long as they understand the position, the dot on the field itself. That is the one you have to learn. The role is just a guess. Well, it's not a guess. I mean, it's a recommendation, but it's a recommendation that if you feel comfortable with a player's attributes arrayed for a certain style of play and collection of instructions, then you can roll with it. And there are no consequences at all. Well, the only consequence being that that player is probably going to be, a little worse, or going to be using the wrong attributes, or attributes they're perhaps not just quite as good at. But that can not matter at all, because the difference between an advanced playmaker and target man is huge in terms of the instructions the player has personally. And now you're sitting here like, whoa, okay. Now we're talking about player instructions. We were always talking about player instructions. I feel like a guru today. Buy the Zealand DVD, 7 easy payments of $19.95, and if you send me your sandals, I'll sign them. But really, we were always talking about personal player instructions, because roles are just a collection of personal player instructions. So if I ever figure out where I'm supposed to go while I'm talking, we will be completely unstoppable. We go to player, and we go to Yohar Mejia. He has 3 instructions which will utilize these particular attributes in this role at this position. Hold the ball up, dribble less, and get further forward. So when you click on edit his personal player instructions, you can't take these off. You can add things, but you can't take them off. Now let's say I want to switch him. Now all of a sudden I want to advance forwards. We want to put significant pressure on the back line. We go to Yohar Mejia, get further forward, and moves into channels. So he's utilizing that work rate, that off the ball, in a way he was not before. And the way he's moving is going to make dribbling, finishing, more important. But if I'm going to get a significant contribution from Mejia being an advanced forward as compared to a target man, that can more than make up for the fact that his attributes might not be perfectly aligned to being the advanced forward. He's not going to be any worse. Because he has complete understanding of the position itself, there will be no detrimental effects to sending him out with those particular personal player instructions. So now you understand that roles are not familiarity based. They have nothing to do with the versatility hidden attribute that every player in the game has. Then what are they good for in things like training and training? Well, let's use our guinea pig, Yohar Mejia. So we go into him, we go into training. So if I tell him to train as a complete forward, and it's not working on familiarity, what is he doing? Well, he's just training as a complete forward. And what do you think that has to do with anything? He is working specifically on the attributes that are important for a complete forward. This means there are certain roles that you never should be training someone to. I'm looking at you, no-nonsense fullback. If you want to develop a player broadly, putting them on complete wingback, putting them on something like box-to-box midfielder where they're working on a lot of different attributes, is going to continue to work them in that role, doing those things, using those attributes, so that in training they can develop better in those areas. Other things like Carrilero, no-nonsense, anything, poacher, are not very useful roles to be training a player to, because they're just not working on much. Unless you really want to specialize a player into being a very specific person, doing a very specific job, I don't see a lot of point to it. But this whole training operation can actually lead to a false prophecy. And I'm going to give you an example. So when I'm streaming on Twitch sometimes, I will pray to the FM gods. I will sit there, look up at the sky, play some choral music, and pray for good tiding and fortunes in the match to come. I did this before my final match in my Bate Borisov save in Belarus, and we won the Champions League. So then I could be convinced that my praying to the FM gods was the direct and only reason for winning the Champions League. This can happen in training with roles, and this is why you might have been convinced, as I was, that roles you can actually improve at over time. If you set somebody to train in a role, you're working on the attributes for a role. So what do you think the recommendation for that role is going to get? Higher. It's going to get higher. Unless you end up with the dreaded red arrows because they're mad at you for some reason, or they just have a bad month of training or whatever, then the recommendation can get worse. After watching this video and hearing all that, you're going to have a bunch of successive revelations. It's not just that, the training that you've been doing was largely obsolete for a long time. It ended up not mattering that much because you were developing your player pretty well anyways. It'll also now finally make sense how there were players that are natural at a position, but they aren't natural or familiar with a role because they're not fully recommendable for any of the roles at that position, even though they're perfectly comfortable in it. My example for this being Sebastian Rodriguez. He's a full natural at defensive right back. Defender, parentheses, right. But he's not recommendable fully in any of these roles because of the way that his attributes are laid out. He is up here though, so good for him. Another realization you might have is that you can actually tailor instructions to players where they might not be best for the role that your tactic needs, but can make them better at that role. You don't want to overdo it because then you're just going to end up recreating the player role that you're trying to get them out of to make your tactic even better. So Johar Mejia, I'm not going to do everything to make it. I click on the wrong thing every single time. It's amazing to me. There we go. Johar. Edit. I have him on target man. This is not the example. We have to switch Johar Mejia to advance forward because we think that's just going to work perfectly in our tactic, putting huge pressure on their back line. We're going to look to break in to a certain area, and now we will go to player instructions. He's getting further forward. He's moving into channels, but what other player instruction can we give him to make him use some of the attributes that now he's not using because he's no longer a target man, even though that's what he's best at? One of the player instructions on a target man is to dribble less. Johar Mejia is not a particularly gifted dribbler, nor is he particularly fast. He has nothing about him that's going to make him effective if he's dribbling the ball. So dribble less, since, holding up is counterintuitive tactically. And now, all of a sudden, Johar Mejia is playing in something that is more tactically advantageous for us, but we're doing it with a player instruction that is more comfortable for him. And so now, hopefully, not only do you understand the difference between position and role and how dramatically different they are in all respects, but you also have an idea of how to apply it in training and in tactics to make players more comfortable fitting into your tactical scheme. Don't get too reckless with it, but you can now feel free to play players without full green circles, which takes a little bit of confidence to do, I know. So the great myth around roles is smash. Go forth and conquer, my friends. I will see you on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. I think that's all we've got right now. I'll keep you posted. Saleh Shaheed. I know we're looking at another goalkeeper, Ali, but in this moment, you're the best shot stopper in the world, damn it. That's why you're on this team.